Good day, everybody. This is welcome to Mayor's Hotline. I'm your host, Don Walmsley, and with me is our esteemed mayor, Adrian DeGroot. And now's our chance to ask the mayor how things are going, and maybe to discuss some issues that people have been having or speaking about on the streets. The good thing about being in studio here is there's no rotten vegetables to throw or anything like that. So welcome.
Well, thanks.
How are you?
Thanks, Don. Well, excellent.
Good. So we'll start it off, and we'll just start off today. I think, what would you like to talk about? What's hot for you in the council right now?
Well, I think there's a number of issues, I guess, that are hot. But one of the things I'd like to draw people's attention to is our calendar of events that is starting to really form around our new website. And kind of focus on that and how people can access not only the website but also how to populate the calendar of events for the Canada 150. So we want to kind of we've already started. Well, we're January now, so I'd like to kind of talk about that as well as some of the kind of plans for our budgeting, would be there's
so let's start then. Let's talk about the website. How you've introduced a new website, and so far, what has been sort of the feedback?
The feedback has been good. It's been positive. People are starting to utilize it, learning how to navigate, through the website, and certainly the type of website we have requires a bit of scrolling. So when you're not seeing everything just on one page, everything compressed into one page. So quite often, you get the main frame, and then you kind of scroll down that page in order to find out, various bits of information. And all of the pages are kind of designed that way, and it allows people to see a little more clearly, rather than being overwhelmed, I guess. And we've did quite a bit of research. The company that we worked with, and sometimes if you have too much information on your pages, it gets a little overwhelming as far as selecting. So if we can get it to and everybody navigates, everybody's logic is is different, and that's the challenge with developing a website. Is that although intuitively you might say, well, this is the way I would structure things, or how I would navigate from this point to the point of information that I require, we're not all wired the same way. So even this morning I was kind of test driving what I wanted to talk about is how to populate the calendar. So we've redesigned the calendar of events. So it's under residence is where the calendar is. So you go to residence, and then you can go down and it'll say calendar of events. And it allows you to take a look at the most immediate events that are coming up in the next short little while, as well as it allows you to take a monthly view, taking a look at the month itself, as well as being able to download or print that calendar. So what we're asking people to do, and this is in conjunction with Canada 150 plans, is we would like people to, as the organizations are developing or as individuals are developing special events that they would like to feature or highlight as a Canada 150 theme, or part of, it doesn't even have to be a specific celebration of Canada 150, but something that you might want to let people know, like the Knox Presbyterian Church, for example. Their 140th celebration is this year. So, they've started to do some initial planning, and it looks like around June they want to have, this is our heritage service. They want to have a barbecue. So that's not on the calendar yet. So how do people do that? So they just go to neepawa.ca, which is the front page of the website. You scroll down, and I just have a bit of instructions just to make sure that I've got it correct, and that it works. So you go to neepawa.ca, you scroll down, and then you'll see a banner or a bar called Local Information. So there's a number of different things that can be selected at that point. Down at the bottom there's a tab, and when you hover over it, it says you can view all the events. So that takes you to the calendar, so you don't even have to navigate from that front page to the actual calendar. And then you can go, as I said, by week, by month, by event. And then there's a local view all events, and then there's a / submit an event. So it's as easy as that. You just click on submit an event, and it'll give you a page for the detailed information. So the name, the phone number, contact information, some details. And even if you have already an agenda, you might have an agenda in a PDF or in a Word document or something like that. You can actually, load that into the calendar as well. So, so it saves a lot of retyping, and so you make sure that you got. Even if you want some pictures, you want some pictures that you can put in there. You can put that into that event as well. So it's really easy. And one of the nice things, and we haven't got it working yet, but I was asking our staff this morning, Canada 150. So myself as mayor, and our economic development officer, Marilyn Crew, as well as our leisure services manager, Amanda Novak. The three of us are also have been identified as being the key individuals for Neepawa, for the town of Neepawa, to relate to the FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and their information that they're rolling out. So there's a website that we want to be able to link that people can take a look at other community events, throughout Canada. Okay. So what the idea of that particular website, and as I say, we haven't got it linked yet, and we haven't worked out all of the detail. But what it will allow is that if someone is going for a drive or traveling in a particular area, they might be going home for a homecoming, or they might be doing some family, or going to Niagara Falls to see the falls for the first time. They can click on to the Niagara Falls area and look at the events.
Oh, okay.
And the same thing that people driving through Neepawa or visitors in Neepawa can go from their websites into our calendar of events as well. So it really becomes a very strong network for the Canada 150. And
so this is something that's happening across Canada. People are trying to do that.
Yeah, this is happening across Canada. Last year, the FCM sent out, nominate your key people that you want on this network. So we responded by identifying the three of us as being those focus point. And now, so what the opportunity of sharing information, taking a look at some of the logos, highlights and things like that. So that's kind of how we want to do that. We want to make sure that people have that information. I know Rain at Arts Forward has quite a few events already into the calendar. And then the other thing in Canada 150, not only the calendar of events, but we've also struck a community committee. And so that community committee is not responsible for organizing events, rather than helping out. What we want to do is, and when I say helping out in grant applications, perhaps, if they want to do that. Do they need some maybe logos? That if they're printing out some material and they want to make sure that they highlight the celebration of Neepawa for Canada 150.
So how would that committee be accessed?
Rain Pryor from Arts Forward is the chairperson.
Okay.
So so we're trying to get that communication out. Valerie Drama is on the committee. See who else is on the. There's quite a few that are on that committee. So there's kind of a network in the community to to get awareness. And what I'll do is perhaps next time we have the mayor's hotline, I'll kind of get some of the outline and all the committee names and the phone numbers and things like that, and we can use the mayor's hotline to to disseminate that information as well. So we meet monthly, and looking at ideas, what we can do. One of the ideas that we're doing now, and which we'll kind of solidify in our February meeting, is asking council to identify a week in July as Heritage Week. So what we're trying to do, and it's already starting to happen, is a number of activities. And it's not it's like kind of a takeaway or take off from the Lily Festival that we had before. I know some people were interested in developing a cornucopia festival. So we've still got those ideas that are floating around. I've reached out to the individuals that were supporting that particular activity. So hopefully we can re-engage them. I know a number of people have criticized that, things weren't happening, and maybe rightfully so. But now we want to, maybe use Canada 150 as a focus to reestablish, some of those things. So what we're tentatively looking at, the dates, is from July the 14th to July the 23rd. It's a bit more than a week because it's kind of a Friday. Friday is July the 14th, and Sunday is July the 23rd. So it's a bit longer than a week. The reason we did that is, or suggesting that, is that it spans 2 weekends.
Yes.
Yeah. And it spans 2 weekends, and that way everything isn't congested into
just one weekend.
Into just one weekend.
So if you happen to be away that weekend, at least you have the other weekend to participate.
Right. Or if you say, or even on the facilities, we have limited facilities, that people can book. So this way it allows, you have 2 Saturdays, 2 Sundays, 2 Friday nights, so then, it kind of, we're looking at starting perhaps a parade. I know the Auto Club had drag races and other things that were happening, in and around that weekend. Were kind of spontaneous as a result of what they used to do as part of the Lily Festival. They carried it on the next year.
Just a point of clarification. I remember at the community meeting you talked about Celebration 150 is not just simply a week or a month. It's
right.
A whole year event.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of organizations like the Snowdrifters who might be interested in doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, they're not going to be able to do it in July, but
exactly.
they may well be looking at something either in later on in this
mm-hmm.
spring or in the fall, depending on, obviously, for them, snow conditions. So
right.
really, it's any time of the year that if people have an event they want to sort of tie to the 150, they can do.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were talking about the possibility of a poker derby. So whether it's a snowmobile club or cross-country skiing poker derby, or a combination of both, mm-hmm. Something like that. So, so the committee kind of looks at generating some of these ideas and then say, I know somebody who's interested maybe in doing something like that. We've already had an indication that there's a couple of businesses within our community that have indicated that they would like to sponsor a soapbox derby. So now if we've already got the sponsorship, now we just need some people
to organize it.
Yeah, like to say, okay, and it's something that you want to start now because you only got that window of opportunity, again for soapbox derby, and if people want to do it, hopefully we can get some people to step forward and say, yeah, you know what? I used to do that when I was a kid. My dad and I made one of those things.
We got a couple of hills in town.
We got a couple of hills in town that we can that we can use.
One of the things that came up at that general community meeting regarding Celebration 150 was that there were grants available, and the process was going to be that people would be submitting to a core group or a committee from the town who would sort of say yes, no, maybe. Have you had many applications yet?
Well, Amanda did a workshop,
yes.
And I believe she had about 7 or 8 people at that workshop. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily the applications to the town's granting. It's through the FCM. It might be through Beautiful Plains. It might be through other organizations. So we would have those contact information. Rain would have it. Amanda would have it, or Marilyn. And then make sure that we disseminate that. So whenever I receive something from FCM or I receive something related to Canada 150, I send it out to all of the committee members. Right? I send that out, and so if other people want to get that information, either contact myself, contact Rain, contact the town office, and then we'll hook you up to see whether there's an opportunity in one of those areas, for whether it's Federation Community Municipalities, Western Diversification, or whatever else pops up in order to help.
I think the concept of looking at as the community as a whole and various organizations and being able to maybe access funding. Have you had any people apply for anything?
Yeah, we've got some grants that are specific to our granting process, and Councillor Jarama, as chairman of the Finance and Administration Committee, and myself and administration are going to take a look at those grants. We're right in the process of developing our 2017 budget, so I want to get it done early, so in case there's some timeliness that is there, we want to be able to identify those sensitivities as well. So we've asked the administration to kind of. So I can't answer your question directly because I haven't seen.
Okay.
I haven't seen the applications yet, but I know that they are received. So we've asked the administration to kind of make 3 piles. One pile, these applications for grants fit the new criteria. These do not. These are close. Maybe they need, maybe need some clarification. Maybe they need some tweaking. So that we can. But we're going to look at all 3 piles. We're going to look at all of the applications because this is the first year that we've got the new policy out.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that it works. One of the things that I was hoping for is that people could access the granting process throughout the year rather than having a deadline. So if somebody comes up with a project mid-year and they want to do it towards the latter part of the year, can we still accommodate that? So we want to take a look at that aspect as well.
So this granting process is not for this current fiscal year?
No, this is the granting.
For the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
So really.
No. The grants that have been applied for are for 2017.
So, okay, just for clarification, what's your fiscal year? Is it a calendar year?
Calendar year.
So it's January to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking that the grants you're taking a look at now are for 2017.
Yeah. So we want to back that up. So again, we still ended up having that date. Because it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to change the direction. Mm-hmm. It's tough.
Well,
but so we want to be able to recognize, acknowledge good applications. Especially we did a lot of work on rewriting our granting policy. And if there's something, that is, especially if it's something related to Canada 150, and it fits our granting policy, and we have some money within the thing, I say, let's do it.
So getting back to some of the particulars, how much money has been designated for that particular pot? You must, when you're doing budgeting, have some sort of sense. We've got 12,000. We've got whatever. Do you have a sense of what that is?
Just historically, it's well over 200,000.
Okay.
But we have been trying to pull back on that because the rewriting of the grants policy, and if you have taken a look at it in some of the communications, is we're getting away from operating support, ongoing operating support. If it's a startup, something that is good for the community, that's different than ongoing operating support. What we're also looking at with the granting is to nail down in policy, and policy meaning where does it fit within the budget, that certain organizations within the community, and we've heard it loud and clear, that in other communities, quite often the councils support it. Whether it's through the arts.
It becomes a budgetary line.
It becomes a budgetary line within that area, and it doesn't become a grant process. So you end up determining what the criteria is, what the relationship is. Perhaps the reporting, is a little more rigid, I guess, maybe than than others, because I know you don't want to get into audited financial statements if it's a, the $2,000 grant to an organization. I mean, they might cost them $2,000 just to get the audited statement, so which doesn't make sense. So, but if it's an $80,000 or $100,000 item, that's taxpayers' monies that we have to be stewards of, and there needs to be accountability. So we're still in the process of refining those areas as well.
Okay, so really you can't quite give me any sort of numbers regarding number of applications or that kind of thing, but it's in
I'll
process.
hopefully have it by the next meeting or next time.
That's fair enough. But I mean, these are things that people have been asking.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the council.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm going to ask you a question. Throw it out to you, and of course it's subjective. But at this point in the mandate of your council, if you were to grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you see yourselves at?
I would think, going back to the first few weeks, first maybe 2 months of this particular term, me being absolutely brand new to the process on how things are done in Neepawa, looking at a council of some new people and some seasoned councillors, looking at the agenda and some of the issues that were there at that time, I would have to say, and from a personal perspective, I would say we're at a 9.
Really?
Yeah, I was,
Okay.
because, and I say that quite candidly as well, is because some of the issues that were there, and I won't get into them. People know what those issues were, even more so than I did. But taking a look at that, looking at the some of the cultural changes that we've undergone, being very open and honest with each other. Sometimes it was painful in a sense. And that has gone by the wayside. We're working, together towards a certain vision. We still have a lot of different opinions on how to get there. Which is the nature of politics, and that's healthy, because what it does, I'm not discouraged by that. And that's why I can say it's still a 9. I'm not discouraged by resistance or by a different opinion, because I look at those things as opportunities. It makes me sharpen my thought process better. Mm-hmm. It makes us makes us make sure that we have a sharper pencil, as far as what we're doing. Moving certain agenda items forward. Yeah, it takes slow, but we're moving them forward. You could say, yeah, well, you haven't really got too much further with the fire hall. However, 20 years of planning, now in the last 2 years, we have, and this is very clear to our council and to our administration, last week we sent out the okay for the engineering group to go tender-ready documents. That means get all of the detailed engineering done. We've got the structure, we've got everything, we've got the footprint, we've got the layout. We've done a dialogue with our volunteer fire people. We've worked with North Cyprus Langford because they're participant in the operations and also the capital costs. So we've done that. We've done that planning, and now we say, because I've asked our administration point blank, says, can we put the shovel in the ground this year?
And the answer?
Answer was yes.
Excellent.
So, it's still a lot of work to do, but that's the, we wanted to do it last year, but we just, it was still that, just didn't fall into place, and that was the idea. But I said, no longer. This is what we want to do.
So, where does a new police station fit into this?
We're just in the preliminary discussion. They've done it. The RCMP did an evaluation of the prison location. They're working on different aspects, and also we've developed and with the RCMP initiated this conversation, have put together a working group. And so that working group, and because it's with RCMP and because it's with federal, requires a certain level of confidentiality. So it's a small working group. There's our administration, as well as some of our support. And when I say support, the planning district, because the development plan and zoning bylaws and things like that are looked after by the planning district, not the town. So we have a working group together, as well as being proactive and having the foresight. We want to make sure that we keep that into the plans as well. But nothing is definite yet.
But a process is being commenced.
A process has commenced, yes.
Excellent. I'm going to slip back to Celebration 150 because I noticed a question I didn't get around to because we got going in our conversation. I think what came out of that community meeting around Celebration 150 was the community calendar, which, let's face it, is a concept which was a long time in coming. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. You've given information with regards to funding that may be accessible for people and how to go about looking at it, to do events that sort of commemorate that 150 piece, also in conjunction with the new sort of granting process. Now, when we talk about Celebration 150, specifically, what is the town doing?
Okay, so what we're doing is, and again, I'm amazed sometimes that like going back to where we are from 1 to 10, on when some of these concepts started. And so what we're doing is we're moving forward. I always face the wind, so what we're doing is we're concentrating our efforts on the flats area. So we're looking at with the potential of having to move the tennis courts because of the potential of the expansion on the NACI.
So you will look at relocating.
So we want to not necessarily the relocation because we won't want to relocate until we have to relocate, but with the design. Okay. So what we've done is we went to a design group, and they've just finished the conceptual design. Taking a look at the tennis courts, taking a look at the soccer fields, taking a look at the ice because we want to do it all season surface on the ice surface, so that we can utilize it as outdoor basketball courts because right now it's just dirt, right? And so we'll be able to either put concrete or asphalt. Also, we want to do an all-weather walking track around the flats area, as well as a small bike trail. Tying it into a bike trail. So we've just went and also looking at perhaps even if the need is there for expanding our community gardens, because that's part of that area as well. And if you've been down there, there's quite a ditch that separates the soccer fields from the community gardens and the rest of that wetlands. So one of the concepts is to culvert that ditch and for parking, so that there's better parking. And so now it's gone back to the engineering group because again, we want to be able to tender that out ASAP, so that we can get that construction going.
So what you're doing is you're looking at expanding the leisure and recreational concept of the flats area.
Oh, very important. We're also wanting the design, looking at beach volleyball. Something that you and I need.
Yeah, we won't go there. Not this session. So in regards to that, it comes up time and time again when you're looking at year-round recreation, especially in a community in the prairies. We're dealing with winter, and not everybody skates, and not everybody skis, and not everybody plays hockey or broomball, but people swim. Mm-hmm. There comes up time and time again about, is there a possibility that we'll ever get an indoor pool? And has that ever been on the radar with regards to that in the recreational sort of expansion of recreational concept?
It hasn't it isn't on the radar as far as, is that one of the plans. It's certainly been discussed. It's certainly been talked about as to what that looks like. So one of the things that we need to do is start to, I don't disagree. If you want to, even if it's a ways away, start looking at what does that look like. Does it look like a building around our existing structure? Is it part of a multi-use complex? I know there's a lot of interest in that type of activity, but those are big bucks.
Because but the truth of the matter is, all our gymnasium, the schools are maxed out.
Yeah.
It's hard to get time in the schools. They're really accommodating, but they're busy.
Yeah. No, you're right, and we're lucky. We're very fortunate to have the Beautiful Plains School Division grant that extracurricular activity. There's many school divisions that restrict after hours usage, and so I acknowledge them whenever I can for them allowing that to happen. Which is great.
You're very skillful. Because I still haven't got an answer for my question for the Celebration 150. What exactly?
I'm a politician.
What events around the 150 specifically are the town going to be?
That's our feature project. That's
for
our
150.
For 150. Another one is kind of related to that, and I guess it's a kind of an aside thing. Is we're going to look, and we're working with. Provincial Trails Association, as well as the Canada Trail, is we're looking at improving our signage for our Canada Trail. Okay. And so that's kind of parallel to, because the loop that we're putting around the flats is part of the Canada Trail, that goes through Neepawa. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, because what we're also looking at, they've been working on that for quite a few years, on tying the Langford Trail to the Neepawa Trail, rather than having to drive and park and go, and then making that part of the Canada Trail as well. So we're working with North Cyprus Langford, as well as we've extended an invitation for Rosedale Trail to engage as well. A lot of people aren't aware of it, but the Rossburn Trail starts just north of town on the old CN right-of-way. So the CN right-of-way, which runs parallel to Highway 5 and then crosses towards Spring Hill Colony, that whole area was gifted or sold to the Rossburn Trail Association.
Really?
So what we're doing is we've contacted Canada Trail, and actually we have a meeting tomorrow night with the CDC committee, Community Development Committee, and we're looking at improving our signage as on the highways, looking at and so we've contacted Canada Trail, and they want to engage. They're quite excited about it. So it's part of the overall Canada 150 initiative as well. And also what we want to do is we want to improve the signage within the community.
Well, and I'm just going to make a comment on that. The sign up for the bird sanctuary. A wonderful idea.
Yeah, no, it's great. And then what we also want to do is redo the ones. We still got to talk to Rotary about it. Is the sign at the bottom of First Avenue where you start Park Lake Drive, and you have that sign there for our bird sanctuary, Rotary Park. We want to talk to them about improving that, because one of the ideas that we're looking at is creating a series of loops within the town of Neepawa. So that, even though if you don't, start out at Highway 5 and do the whole thing, you might just do, so that might be the White Mud River Loop, where you go down.
There's some really
there's some beautiful
little trails. I know often in the wintertime there's a trail when you go into the park down close to where Hillcrest. You can see Hillcrest.
Yeah.
Just a nice little walk and another loop.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we're looking at to tie into the Langford one, and Amanda and I just talked about it just a week or so ago, is using that Hillcrest Walk and then going over Highway 5 and then going towards the north part of Lake Irwin. And apparently there's a footbridge or over the runoff, the creek, or I guess it's the headwaters for the White Mud River, and then joining the Langford Trail. So that's kind of, and then also what we want to do, and these are just some plans, and this hasn't been approved or budgeted yet, but they're now we're talking about it, is that we want to tie in the Veterans Way Walk.
Yes.
Through that ravine to Park Lake Drive. So going through that ravine, it would be and if we can get that and find some traction for some dollars towards it, and then make it an all-weather walkway. People with scooters and wheelchairs and things like that. That would be a beautiful. A beautiful
really nice trail. There's a lot
trail.
of people out walking and doing that.
Yeah.
July the 1st, what's the town going to do?
Well, we're working on, we've got a committee starting to put together some of the activities. So looking at, certainly the fireworks and, getting a band, doing some stuff. And I think they want to do a little bit of a heritage thing, again. One of the things that the community committee decided to do is to try not to compete with other communities as far as events are concerned. Mm-hmm. Do we have for immigrants, becoming Canadian, citizenship ceremonies? So we understand that the park, does, and they do it regularly, and they're already planning on a big celebration. So why should we don't want to compete against each other. So one of the things that we try to do is say, okay, let's see what other communities are doing, and then maybe we can have a different kind of event. So people can maybe do something in the morning in Minnedosa and do something in the afternoon in Neepawa. So it was still in the planning stages for that.
We've talked about changes over the past, especially 5 years in the community. Our census. Mm-hmm. When do you think we're going to hear our census results?
According to Census Canada website, and I was just looking on it last week, is February the 8th. So that's a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
February the 8th, the population numbers should be coming out. That's the first let of 2016 census. Not sure whether all the demographics will be at that same time, but if
more population.
Yeah, according to if you go to the Census Canada website, Census Canada, I think 2016, they have a list of when and a description of when some of the documentation is being released. But the very first one is February the 8th. And that's the population figures.
So we'll get a sense then how much our population has grown.
Yes.
Because I think you can't suspect that it hasn't grown in the past while.
Yeah, and it's hard to determine. It's very difficult to determine because we don't keep those stats. I know some communities, they keep what they call vacancy rates. Mm-hmm. So they know exactly how many apartments, how many motels, how many basements, suites, things like that. And, you can correlate that with population, taking a look at vacancy and, things like that. We don't keep those statistics here. And we also understand there is a bit of an issue where you get large groups of people in single-family homes. Mm-hmm. And that is a reality that we have to do. And that's another subject we can hopefully start to talk about too, is expanding our not only expanding our boundaries, but also looking at development, building lots and things like that. So anyways, February the 8th, we shouldn't have to guess anymore.
That would be very great. The other thing is, now we've talked during our conversation today, you've talked about how there's been certainly some changes in the way council does business. And trying to, for lack of a better word, tighten things up. establish clear-cut directions, discuss whether something should be within the operational budget versus requiring maybe more specific project-based support for money. Do you anticipate before the next election, are you seeing any more of those kinds of changes, or do you think most of those have happened and you're just trying to make them work and put them in process?
Well, there's a number of things we still need to address. We've been addressing quite a few of the policies within administration, within council. Many of them have been around for a long time. Some of them not clear. We've clarified those things. We've caught up with many of those kinds of policies. What we're doing now is we're maybe starting, I guess you might say, hitting the tougher ones. Mm-hmm. And the tougher ones are, the agreement that we have with North Cyprus Langford regarding the supply of potable water. So that is something that has to be renegotiated. There has been some concern as to extending beyond the spirit. I would say to myself, and other people look at it differently, gone beyond the spirit of the agreement. Mm-hmm. Where the spirit of the agreement is in the opening preamble of most bylaws, and said this is the reason why you have this bylaw. Whereas this, we have the jurisdiction, and this is why we're doing it. So that's what I call the spirit of the bylaw. The spirit of the agreement, in my opinion, has been somewhat breached by extending it beyond the boundaries of what the agreement says. As a consequence, the negotiated volume that has been identified within that agreement is exceeded as well. So that says we need to address it. And so the other thing is the desire by Rosedale to have potable water as well. So since we're the only ones in this region that have a water treatment plant, mm-hmm. As well as working with Water Services Board, it's always been the vision of Water Services Board that Neepawa is a regional supplier, that Neepawa continues to be a regional supplier. So their granting and their assistance, financial, engineering, technical, some of the thinking through the Water Services Board has always been Neepawa as that regional center. So they're not twisting our arm. However, because they're the authority within the province, yeah. And it's better to work with them than against them. And mm-hmm. and really, once you create a authority, a water service authority within the community, there's no discretion. You have to. So these agreements have to be redone. We want to make sure that they're done before the end of this term. The other one is there's the personal care home. Now, the personal care home has a requirement in that agreement, and it's a shared agreement with Rosedale, Glenella Lansdowne, and now North Cyprus Langford, and Neepawa. That agreement has indicated, or is indicated, that it has to be reviewed every 5 years. So the end of that 5-year term was last year. So there's some areas within that cause me some concern, and so we need to take a look at that. So basically, we've said, okay, we want to set up some meetings to discuss these things. The other thing which I've pointed out at our last, not the last meeting, the meeting before that, is the fire and emergency services. So Neepawa, as a regional center, supplies those services to our area as well. Mm-hmm. What has happened over the years is that the thought that mutual aid districts covered this service. Well, I've read some of the information regarding mutual aid districts and things like that, and I'm sorry, it doesn't cover it all. Because and the reason why I'm sorry, I'll apologize to the taxpayers of Neepawa. Basically, we've been subsidizing some of those services. So these are the tougher.
Yeah.
These are the
Okay.
tougher issues, and it is my hope, and I think it's also the hope of this council, that we resolve those areas before the end of this term. So that because we've done a lot of work on these. They have been identified practically in January. They have been not practically. They were identified in our first planning session that we held with this council. We listed, because I wanted to know what the issues were. What are some of the things that are on yours, administration as well? What's on your minds? What's bugging you? What's wrong? Why are we doing things this way? Because I came in with my own experience, and I call it tenacity. Some just call it bullheaded.
Your opinion. Send us in your votes. Which one?
I used to be called. What was I didn't even know that I had this stigma about me that I was a bit of a rebel rouser, or that stirred things up. But no, I don't stir things up. I look at things and I read them and I see them, and not only myself, but it's my councillor colleagues, because I asked them, and I made a list. We had about 150 things on that list. And so it's been a matter of working on them, drawing consensus amongst each other as to directions, how we would go, and that takes time.
Well, I think really the reality is there's always a list.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a list. Question I have is, as a municipal entity, your relationship with the province. How is your relationship with the province?
I think the relationship is good. Like as far as there's always that dialogue and that understanding. We don't cry wolf unless we need to. I've always been, I've worked with the province and provincial ministers and provincial bureaucrats, deputy ministers, administrators, for 30, 33, 34 years, not only at the provincial level, but also at the federal level. Sometimes you don't get the response as quickly as you would like. You always think, and people always do this when they're sitting in their armchairs, you have clarity. There's absolutely, why? It's so clear to me what needs to be done. But you have other people that look at things a little more differently. They have regulations, they have legislation that need to be considered that my clarity might not necessarily understand. So I get frustrated, and I wear my frustration very vocally and very forwardly, and but I also recognize that you need to work within that system. So I always have the respect. I think like usually when I ask a question, they know it's well thought out, and that is to the point. And there's 2 or 3 things that we've got between us and the province, town of Neepawa and the province, that need to be addressed, and it's not going fast enough. It's absolutely not going fast. First of all, it's with provincial planning in our approval for our plan of subdivision for the old CN property. That's 4 or 5 months now. That we've been rejigging our administration, talking about it, and going. That's the relationship with the province. And hopefully they don't take this negatively if you're watching. I want it's good. I'd like to push back. If it's not right, then let us know. But also let us know what is possible. Don't tell us this isn't possible. What is possible then?
Yeah, but that's
And then, we're the authority.
yes.
We approve the subdivision, but yet it still needs final approval
But
from the
if
province.
you're working with government that long, and I have too, almost the same number of years, it's often that, no, you can't do that, but they don't tell you what you can do.
Yeah.
And it's more, no, you just keep giving us stuff, we'll tell
Yeah.
you what you can't do. And
Oh, yeah.
That is very
Yeah.
frustrating.
Well, Public Utility Board, water rate approval. We're working on it. And it's good for the consumer,
Yeah.
but it's not good for our forward planning. We have lost the ability to generate about $350,000 plus of revenues that are no longer recoverable. And that money could be used for investment in our infrastructure, investment in improvements, and that's what it's designed for. And that to me is and while you it's in the queue. Well, what does that mean? 2008, and there's a lot of reasons. 2 pages of reasons, of things, redoing. I asked our administration to put it chronologically, the various activities and steps and contacts and things like that. It reads like a horror story. But, so we change it, we modify it, and now and I don't like to engage the ministers, work with the administration. But finally said, this is we want an answer before we strike our 2016 budget. If not, then they're going to get another face-to-face, because this is not acceptable. And the robustness of the application process should be such that when you look at it, did you answer all the questions? If there's interveners, like this was advertised last year, I think it was late last summer, to intervene, and there was one, and it wasn't a complex intervention. It was not complex at all, and and if it was, then let us know what we need to do.
Strike me if I'm wrong, but I'm sensing a bit of frustration.
Yes.
There's all sorts of things we can talk about. Something I'm going to throw in mind, I don't expect any kind of real reply at this point, but the issue of hospital comes up. And think about that, because I think maybe next time, if we've got time, we might talk a bit more about where that's at. Because,
sure.
When you're in coffee shops or you're talking to people, that's been a sort of a white elephant. Well, not so much a white elephant, it's pretty obvious. People wondering and speculating, given what's happened before. So just keep that in thought. Hopefully spring, I've got a question for you, because somebody mentioned that, and I want to feed that back. Snow clearing.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel you did this last big dump of snow and
terrible.
things going?
Terrible.
Okay, why?
Well, as I reported in my last mayor's report, there's basically 3 operators that do the snow clearing within our community. There's infrastructure and transportation. They do, the Main, and they do Mountain Avenue. Right?
Yes.
Then there's our own city workforce, the town workforce, that and I see them out doing some work today. We have limited equipment, and then we have a contract. So the biggest issue has been with the contractor, and our administration has been working with them to ensure that the letter of the contract is abided by. So we have a snow clearing policy, and council has had the opportunity, administration has had the opportunity to review that policy, and that policy, seems to be okay. Like you've got the areas covered that need to be covered. However, the execution was not to the standard that we required. And so there was acknowledgement in that. And so our administration met with the principals to get that clarified and reiterate what the expectations were.
Okay.
And so that's what we have done. And so you're not going to be able to do it all the time, but it wasn't to the letter of our contracts this last time, and I'll be the first to admit that.
All right. Well, I think I'm sort of going to sum it up. This is our first Mayor's Hotline of the year. There will be more to come. Certainly we'd entertain if people have particular topics or issues that they would like more information on that relate to the town and the doings of the entire town. If you'd like, you can simply drop them off in a question format here at the front desk at NACTV, and we'll try and incorporate them into our future Mayor Hotlines. No guarantee we'll get them all in, and certainly not all at once, so we may spread them out, but this is an opportunity for us to ask questions of our mayor, to get feedback, and to have some candid discussion, which I think we've had today. So I would like to thank you for coming in today.
You're
welcome.
welcome.
A pleasure, and I think your hair stood up the test. You prepared before you came in, and it seemed to handle itself well. And just thank you all for tuning in and viewing Mayor's Hotline. And as I said, if you have any questions or things you might like addressed, please just simply drop them off at the front desk, and we'll take a look and see how we can incorporate them. But other than that, I'm Don Walmsley, wishing you a happy day and a week ahead, and look forward to you tuning in on our next Mayor Hotline.